Hello, everybody, and welcome to my review, my totally amateur review of the Korg EMX 1 or the Korg Electribe MX. As far as I know, this is the second version of the Electribe. The first one was the Electribe 1 or whatever, and it kind of looked similar, but it had less synth parts and drum parts, and but it was also made out of metal like this one. And this is a synth or groovebox rather that I wanted to get my hands on for so long. I saw it in pictures and on sites for sale and stuff like that, and I was like, oh my god, I want one of these. There's just something so appealing about the look of it, with the brushed blue aluminum faceplate and the entire metal body here. It's quite a looker for groove boxes. So I wanted one of these so bad. When I finally got one, I was just over the moon. Although it was kind of overshadowed because I also found a Roland MC-808 in the same place and for super cheap. So I bought both of them at the same time. And I'll be honest, I went in there for the Electribe MX-1 and I came out totally playing with the MC-808 for the next 6 months. So I largely overlooked this guy because I was just so surprised to be able to get an MC-808. The two groove boxes, the MC-808 and the MX-1, were considered competitors back in the day because they came out around the same time. I think this one came out in 2005 or 2006, I'm not sure. The MC-808 came out in 2007, so they were direct competitors. And they have their strengths and their weaknesses in different parts. For example, this one is better as a drum machine, and it does make all of its own sounds. I believe it synthesizes all of its own sounds. There's no samples used whatsoever, so everything it's doing here, it's all synthesized. And there are some differences in the ways that they work. Here we can do the synth parts. As you can see, you can play all of the sounds on the device itself just using these here. You can also control it through MIDI if you want to, but I haven't done that yet. I've just been using the buttons on here. So very cool synthesized sounds on this thing. Yeah. So before we do this, like getting into what the machine can do, how about we start with a look at the outside of the device, okay? So give me a second and I'll be right back. Okay, here we are looking on the outside of the device. We've got our volume control and audio gain or tube gain that controls these guys right here. That's probably the thing that you'll notice most about this synthesizer, or this groove box, is these big huge tubes in the front here. And they're not totally useless. They amplify sounds. I've heard people use them as like a tube amplifier for like vocals and stuff like that, but I haven't done that myself. And you can replace these with, I've heard some like Russian ones that do the like amplifying even better, but I don't know too much about that. So again, totally amateur review. You've got your little display right here, a little LCD display. And it's a dot matrix display, so that it's not limited to like specific characters and specific spots. It can do a whole bunch of stuff. If I turn the knob here, it's supposed to display different stuff. There we go. So yeah, it can tell you what's going on, what sounds there are and stuff like that. Let's turn it back to 1 here. You've got your effects section right here, and this knob right here can turn between different effects. So the way that works is if I were to like select synth part right here, then everything I do right here is now controlling this one synth part. Right now you can hear it's got a delay effect. Technically speaking, I'm supposed to be able to change it. But okay, we'll deal with that in a second. Everything's going through a delay. I don't know why. Okay, over here you've got your part common that gives you a bunch of things to change. Pitch, glide, pan, what is that? EG time, I guess envelope time, not sure. And your level. That's where my FX send right there. Yeah, I can't quite change the effect right now. I'm not sure why. Oh, I guess I have to choose which FX I'm doing here. There we go. Okay, I was stuck on the wrong FX. I was on FX2. So now it's using FX1. And I can go through all the different effects here. As you can see, there are quite a few effects to choose from. They're not the greatest effects, but they're pretty versatile. I'm digging into... Oh, that was a really far delay. Yeah! Okay, I'm digging into the synth. I guess I should first go over the outside of the device like I said I would do. So let's have a look here. You can see that it is a product of its age. This here is the memory card slot, and it's a smart media card. So this was a very old technology that was quickly abandoned for, what is it, like the cards that we use now, SD cards. But yeah, this is a product of its times. So it's got that there. On the back for inputs and outputs, it has two channel outputs and two more channel outputs, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's got an audio in. I'm not sure if that is stereo or not. Then it's got a selector between mic and line. Yeah, so you can select it as mic, and then I think you can use the tube amplifier to amplify like a preamp, but I'm not 100% certain. Over here you've got your MIDI in, out, and through. You've got your power button and then your power cord in there. So not a huge amount of inputs and outputs, but not too sparse either. It's nice to have all the MIDI outputs and inputs. If you're a hardware geek like me, it's nice to have those. You see your little door right here for your tubes, so you can open that up and replace the tubes if you want to with better ones. And that's it for the outside of the device. I will show you very quickly the bottom, and hopefully I don't rip my mic off the stand, because I don't have a huge wire going here. You see the bottom is just a metal plated bottom with some ventilation and stuff. This is very hard to hold. It's very heavy. The whole device is very heavy. And there's some nice like decorative labeling on the side there, Korg Electribe. So I wish my hand wasn't in the way. I'm using one hand to hold the camera and one hand to hold the device. So apologies for the shoddy camera work here. Okay, let's move it back into position. And I'm going to put the, oh, actually I'm going to hold the camera while I do this part. Let me just move the mic, and there we go. Aim it better. I'm really hoping my audio levels come in right here. I'm kind of slouched over my microphone. But this time you can see I've got my line in on the video, like I've got my line in for actually getting the device's sound into the direct recording instead of recording from a speaker like I often do. But I get a lot of complaints when I use the speaker outside. People are like, come on, do a line in. I want to hear what it actually sounds like. So here you go, you filthy bastards. Okay, so you can see I'm using one of my Moog Voyager XL patch wires to do the line in. Make do, make do. Okay, so back to the device here, back to the outside of the device here. Right here you've got your drum parts, and you'll see there are 9 drum parts, which is quite a bit for the drum parts, but it works a bit differently than the MC808. Then you've got your synth parts. Oh, shoot. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, my my Zoom just died. The batteries I have last about 15 minutes before they need to be recharged, and that's just no good. And I am determined to do this review, so I'm going to do the good old-fashioned way. I'm going to use that speaker right there. I apologize for those of you who want the purest experience of having line in, but it's just not feasible with my amateur setup. So I'll try to work on that in future reviews. In the meantime, let's just continue on with the review. I don't want to get sidetracked. These days it's been very hard for me to make a video without getting sidetracked or getting discouraged or whatever, and I'm just not going to let it. So let's continue where we left off. I believe we're looking at the display, we're looking at the different parts, we're looking at the drum parts and the synth parts, and let me just make sure that's high enough volume. That's quite the delay. Here, let's try to get this held so that I don't block the microphone. As you can hear, there are different effects here. So you've got part 3 is routed. And if I select different parts, you'll see that the parameters change up here. So if I select part 5, then it shows me the parameters are like this. And I can choose the type. There's my square wave, my triangle. Very similar. That is really the effect, like quite the effect. So FX1 and FX2 are both delays, but one is a little bit longer than the other, or quite longer than the other. Here's reverb, just slightly. Here, I've got my edit select, so right now it's FX3. Can go through different delays. Mod delay. Gain shifter. Is that what that says? Gain shifter? Yeah. Chorus or flanger. It's also worth noting that this groovebox only does mono synthesis, so one key at a time. The only time that I can do that differently is if I use this right here. I can do an arpeggiator by pressing multiple buttons together, but I can't show you at the moment because I'm holding the phone with one hand. But this right here, oh, actually, by the last buttons I press, so if I press 1 and then hold this, or if I press 3, this is very useful for making a track, because if you don't want to like put in a repeating pattern or like an arpeggiator, recording it by like hand, you can do it like that. You can do that. It's very convenient. Also, I just got to say, isn't this a beautiful synthesizer or groovebox? Every time I saw this online, I was just blown away by it. The look of it. It looked so, I don't know, appealing, and I still feel that way about it when I look at it now. The outside of it, the metallics of it, and the way that the knobs and the buttons are all set up, it just says play with me. It totally like begs you to play with it. Anyway, getting back into it. So we've got our different synth parts here, we've got our different drum parts right here, and the way it works for recording in a song, which I'm not going to display to you right now because I haven't used it in so long I don't quite remember it, but I can explain it a little bit. How it works is you select a part. That's quite loud, so it's clipping a little bit. You can kind of hear that clipping a little bit, but that's okay. Each drum part is one key right here, okay? So this is like, that's my kick. And if I go to part edit right here, I can choose what it is. It's BD sine 5, BD sine 6, 7, 8, 9. And how I record is I would click on record and play, and then the thing would start playing a metronome, and I would boom, 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 boom. So I could hit just that one to record that, or I could select all these by going part edit, choosing here. It shows me this SD88. I could change that if I wanted to. I could go through different snares, right? And as I'm recording, I could go boom, tsh, boom. I could do that to the like metronome as it's recording, and that's how I get that all done. And then once it's done, I could put in extra parts. Like for example, let's say I wanted to get this thing here, like I could do it like that, or I could use this right here to do. I could use the arpeggiator thing right here to time it for me and get it all. Yeah. Yeah, so I could do that like that if I wanted to. Also, I don't know if this works. No, it doesn't work on here. Okay, this thing doesn't work on there. This is kind of a cool little feature. I'll show you in a second. So that's how I record a beat. I would just press record, press play, and then thumb in what I want. Now this is different from the MC808. The MC808, and this is one thing that makes the MC808 a lot more powerful than this one, although a lot more complicated at the same time, is that when you select a drum part on the MC808, each of the keys down here becomes a different sound in that drum set. So like this would be the kick, this would be a snare, this would be another snare, this would be a hi-hat, this would be whatever, right? So it'd have 16 different sounds that are in one pack. Whereas this one, the drum parts, each drum part is actually just one drum sample or one sound. It's not a sampler. These are not samples. These are synthesized sounds. So each one is just one thing. So it kind of makes it a little more simple to record different things and not have to get all confused about which is what. But at the same time, it's not as powerful as the MC808 because, for example, in the MC808, parts 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 are all drum parts. And each one of those parts is a drum pack. And each one of those packs has 16 different sounds. And each one of those sounds can be changed using the rotary knob on the MC808. Very, very powerful. This one's a lot more simple. You have 9 different drum samples, and that's all you're going to use in a specific pattern, in one pattern. So got a part edit here. I've got here, I can select my drum pack. It's actually quite nice because I can go through different things. I don't really like that, what is it, kick? So I could, that's the very first one. Not bad. Let me just turn this down a little bit. There we go. Now I don't have the clipping sound. Pretty cool, pretty simple. Yeah, not bad. Sorry, I'm not the best at one-handed drum machining. Okay. So we would record our drum part like that, or like our entire drums like that, and you can do it like bit by bit. You finish that one pattern right there, like, and it would like keep recording, and then I could put that in there, and then add, and it would just keep building on the drum part. Then we get to our synth part. And it is similar for recording, although a little bit different. For synth part, we would select the part, and then we would use the keys down here. And so I could record a melody in there when I like play it and record it. And it would keep that in there and basically just loop that. And then I could go to the next part. And if I didn't like the sound, I could go up here, as long as it's on part edit. Sorry for the fuzzy camera. And I could choose. There are some really great sounds built into this thing. And of course, I can change them to my heart's content. Going to the synth oscillator part right here tells me which it's going to select. So right now, it's going through a different, like a bunch of different pre-made patches. You can hear the effects going and whatnot, but it's going through a bunch of pre-made patches. However, that is, which one is that? That is this one down here. So it's called PCM plus WS, whatever that means, but I would just call that like pre-made patches. I can go through different selections. I believe it's running the same patch through a different filter, but I'm not 100% certain. But I can go to noise, which doesn't really sound like noise. I guess that's the filter. Formant. And I can choose different things for this. So every time I choose a part down here, I can use this entire section right here to modify the patch and which I find is very cool myself because there's a lot of like getting into it. Imagine you can record the part into the song, and then you can modify it as much as you want. So you record a simple melody, and then as it's playing, you can change the sound so that it's playing the same melody with an entirely different sound set. That's modulation right there, and I'm not actually doing anything to it. I need to figure out how to It's kind of cool. I can do os edit 1, wherever the oscillator edit is. I'm not sure. Then I've got my filter down here, which actually changes it quite a bit. When I use the knob down here, it shows me where the cutoff is. Pretty cool. Resonance. Kind of gets funky up there. Wow, okay, pretty cool. And then, yeah, I can select through different things and even go to cutoff. Kind of gets growly down there. But then I can also go back to this synth oscillator right here and completely change it. So choose like the way that it's generating. Right now it's comb saw. Let me just turn the effects down a little bit. What is it sending? FX2. So I go to edit, select FX2. Right here you can see it's FX2. That's what's running this one through. And I go to FX2, and then I can turn it all down if I want to. Oops, that's FX. Okay, no more effects on there. As I'm in here, like I've just changed it to additive. So it's additive saw. I can actually change it here to square, triangle, sine, you see here's some major funkiness happening there. Let's go back to, I believe that's the resonance. Let me turn the resonance down. There we go, nice clean sine wave sound. Wow, that's really bassy. I can turn the, octave up and down using these buttons down here. Okay, I pressed all three of those buttons. And it is in the order that you press them. So if I press it 1, 2, 3, it'll go. Or if I press it. So it is in the order that you press it, which is kind of a neat little touch for the arpeggiator there. Moving along. Oh, I've forgotten where we were. Okay, we're choosing our different synth oscillator sections. We've gone from additive, now it's WS. I don't know what WS is. Type 1. Type 2. Nope. Type 2. Yeah, so that's a nice sound, and I can do different types. There's only 2 types. Okay. Moving along to VPM, is that? VPM? What is VPM? Voice per mode or something? I'm not sure. Let's turn this octave down a bit. Wow, that's very growly. Not sure how I could change that. Let's see here. Let's turn this up a bit. Okay, right now it is... So right now I've got grain shifter. I've selected grain shifter in the effect. Very unique sound there, actually. I could definitely make that into a song somehow, and then I could actually add another effect to it if I want to. I could use the FX chain right here and add more, but we'll get into that later, or like in another video perhaps, I'm not sure. So as you can see, there are lots of different things here. Now, what I'm going to do for the next part of the song is I'm going to show you, the next part of the video is I'm going to show you some stuff I've already done on here and show you how the different parts work together, okay? So let's go to pattern. We've got Electro 1, and we're going to mute everything. And I'll show you some stuff as like I've made it. So let's see. Right now I just have one part unmuted. That's synth part 1. And let's see what it sounds like. And as I said, now that this pattern is already made, I can actually edit everything about it in here and fully change it if I want to. So right now I've got part 1 selected. That's this one. And I can start modifying it. As you can hear, the pattern is already made, so I can completely edit this pattern just by selecting the synth part and then messing around with this area here and this area here. I can do so much to it and fully change it. Actually, one of the nice things about this beatbox or groove machine as well is for somebody like me, I'm not very good at writing beats. I'm pretty good at writing melodies. In my own mind, I'm pretty good at writing melodies. I like the melodies that I come up with. They're usually things that are just in my head. But I'm kind of shy when it comes to making beats. I can't make the most complicated beats. To me, they sound the same, very samey. So I like that in this machine, I've made a couple of songs where I find a project that's already done and I like the beat of it, and I delete all the synth parts and write my own synth parts. And I'll show you that in a little bit. But basically I can make an entirely new song using the same beat that's already made there, which I don't know, it's not entirely original, but it's still something that's nice to be able to do on here. So let's see what it's like when we add in another part. Okay, I'm just going to start adding in parts as it's playing, and I'll let you guys have a listen. Now hold on a second here, something's very wrong with that. I'm just going to change that back. I've modified it without... I've modified something and made everything sound terrible. There we go. That's the way it's supposed to sound. As you can hear, it's a very versatile machine. Like you can really make a lot of stuff with it. This machine came out in a time when hip hop was pretty cool. Of course, hip hop has always been pretty cool. But like at the time, there were less like there wasn't. It just wasn't the same kind of music back then. Like popular music was house and EDM, but it was a lot different sounding, the tempo and speed of it. But also there were less like bass drops and stuff like that, like music of today. And one thing that was very popular back in that time was drum and bass, and that's something that you would hear if you listened to some of the built-in patches on here, which I'm going to show you. They loved their drum and bass. First, a few of these are ones that I've made. Here's a house one. Yeah, that's like music back in this time was a lot different. Here's another one, Garage H1. This is one that I've taken the beat of and rewritten the synth parts because I really liked the beat in this one and I wanted to redo it with the synth parts. So I'll show it to you. Let's mute everything and show you part by part. Very cool synthesis in this machine. Yeah, pretty cool. So I totally took the beat from another song to do that. Okay, let's try some different patterns here. This is one that was already pre-made in here. Shows you the kind of music that was popular back then in 2005, 2006. It was a lot different. Now you can see me doing this with one hand. I'm holding the part mute and like running my fingers along this. What you can't see is if I had both hands free, this is a great live machine because you can have both fingers, you can have one finger on the mute and then start pressing the buttons and stuff like that, and you can really do a lot and like twist the knobs and get different sounds to come out. This machine for live performances is absolutely fantastic. When you're at home, you write all the different parts, and then when you're doing a live performance, you just basically use the part mute and the knobs to like manipulate the sound as it's playing, and you can do some wonderful things with this machine in a live performance. Let's move on to the next sound. That's DNB1. More of a template, really. DNB2. Cool. DNB3. This is another one that I took the beat of and made the synth parts. I'll show you. I took this beat right here. I really liked this beat. song. So yeah, that's another one that I just took the beat that was already done and I erased the synth parts and rewrote them. And it turned out quite to my liking. It was an enjoyable track and it's very fun to play live. Okay, next one. D and B4, very original names here. Cool. Hip Hop 1. Hip hop sounded a little different back then. Here's another one I took the beat of and just made the synth parts too. Okay. Hip Hop 3. This was trance music back then, very popular in the late 90s and early 2000s, like very popular for raves, big parties and stuff like that. One of the coolest things about this groovebox is that all the sounds that you're hearing are being generated by the machine itself. There's no samples involved whatsoever. So it's generating all these sounds on its own using its own synthesis. And it is, I don't know, in that way, in that regard, this makes, that makes this groovebox a better synthesizer than the MC808 in my opinion. The MC808 can do, synthesis, but it's a lot more digital sounding. The thing that makes like the MC808 sound a lot better is that its samples are much better, and in some ways a lot of even the synthesis sounds more, I don't know, professional than this one. The MC808 sounds more professional than this one, but this one has its own quirks, and the synthesis is more like more adept for something like actual electronic music, electronica, which I really like to make. I love making electronic music. Like, I don't know how to classify it, but, you know, the weird electronic kind of music, not just like house and hip-hop, or not hip-hop, house and EDM, but something kind of more eclectic than that. And this machine, in my opinion, makes sounds that are more weird, which, I don't know, I quite like in a machine. Let's listen to a couple more patches and then I'll wrap this review up. Not bad. Very trancey, very much the like a song of its time. Cool. H-trance. Interesting. Let's see if we can get a different genre of music going in here. Everything's all trance. Still, one thing that this is doing, going through the patches, is it's giving you a good display of the different, or the versatility of the synthesis in here. You can really hear a difference between the sounds between each patch, which again, all these are being generated by the machine, so it's quite a versatile little machine. This would be one that I made, I guess. You can tell I made it because there's no name up here. Sometimes when I make a new one, I just fail to write a name for it. But you can hear it in part by part. Let's turn off all these beat parts. And let's turn off all these except for one. This is fun to do with one hand. That was using the arpeggiator. Two things you can hear just from this pattern, or just from this patch here, or this pattern, is one, the versatility of the different sounds there are, but two, you can see how fun it is to play this live, like introducing parts and reducing parts and then tweaking them and stuff like that. This one really displays how much fun it is to do that on this machine. It's very straightforward. In fact, I didn't read the instruction manual for this because I didn't get an instruction manual for it. I figured out everything as I went, and it really is the kind of groovebox that you can just kind of get and then start playing with. It's not too complicated at all. You might need to watch one or two YouTube videos, but once you get the concept of it down, it's so straightforward. It's a lot of fun. Let's do a couple more patches here because it's so much fun, and I want to make this a longer video. I like longer videos. Moving up to 25 or two-step one. Very cool. Two-step two. Cool. R&B one. There we go, different genre. Oh yeah. Very cool. So 90s sounding, actually. Not bad. Funk. That's very funky. Down tempo. Ooh, don't say you go. MX-1, ambient house maybe? That's what it is. Wow. IDM, intelligent dance music. Oh, I like this. That's cool. And then back into techno. Very cool. So how about we wrap this up with a little bit of final thoughts on the machine. I'm very happy that I bought it. And I recommend, if anybody's into groove boxes whatsoever, if you see this video and you think that looks like something you might like to play with, I definitely recommend getting one if it's within your power. I don't think these are too expensive. You're looking at about probably $400 American, which isn't super cheap, but you're talking about a synth that is over 10 years old and is, of course, no longer in production. It hasn't been in production in ages. There have been a few different Electribes since this one that Korg has offered, and the latest one is like a black plastic bodied thing, which probably has more like capability than this one, but there's just some charm about this one. That's what I would say is this one's very charming. It looks like an awesome thing to have, and it is very heavy and very substantial. I'm kind of a collector of music-related hardware myself, and this is something that I'm very proud or very, very happy that I got. It wasn't too expensive compared to the other things that I've got, and Actually, when I think about it, I'm surprised it doesn't cost more because, of course, these things are limited. They're no longer made anymore. That means that what's on the market is all there is. And I highly recommend, if you're into groove boxes and you don't already have one, I recommend it. There is a red one like this. It's called the EMS, I think, the sampler. And it runs off of samples instead of synthesis. And of course, I'd call it its sister. And, also another very cool device. Everything works the same, just, having samples instead of synthesis. And I never got that one because I'm honestly not very much into sampling myself. I know it opens up a whole new world in music production, but I'm more into the synthesis side of things myself and kind of shy about the sampling, whether I can do it properly or not. It's the unknown for me. But the blue one turned out to be the one that I wanted, and it was the one that I could get, and I got a great deal on it. I think I paid like probably about $400 or $500 for it, this is in China, and usually things like this are a lot more expensive. They're usually 20% more at least, and up to twice as much as if you were to buy it in America. So I got a pretty good deal on it, and it was in great condition. So do I regret buying it? Oh, heck no. I think it's a great synthesizer or a great groove box, and I love me some groove boxes. How does it compare to other ones? It's limited. You've got your drum parts and your synth parts and only 5 synth parts. But sometimes limitation is good for creativity. It helps things not get bogged down by overcomplication. So it turns out that I still look back on it and like, I'm very glad that I got it. As I said in the beginning of the review, it was kind of overshadowed by the MC808. When I got this one and the MC808 at the same time, I remember I went to a warehouse out in the middle of Beijing, and this guy had a bunch of antique stuff in there, or like, antique for synthesis. And I went out there specifically to get this. I lusted after this for so long. And while I was out there, I'm looking around at the different stuff that he's got there, and I see an unopened box with an MC808 in it, and oh my gosh, I had to get that. So I ended up getting both of these at the same time, and I spent a lot of time on the MC808. I totally it overshadowed this so much, and I didn't get into this for quite a while after, which in retrospect, I feel like I don't know, this thing deserves more loving than I gave it when I first got it, but now I'm a lot more into it, and eventually I got a lot more use out of it. So yeah, I love it. I think it's a great groove box, definitely something that groove box enthusiasts should have a look into. Anyway, that's my review for the machine. If you have any thoughts or comments, please leave them in the comment section down below. I'd love it if you gave me a like and a subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And that's it for me. So this is Keticus, out.